Welcome to our Bazaar, a podcast that chats with artists of all types to explore the depths of creativity. I'm your host, Brendan Wonder. On this episode of our Bazaar, we're chatting about Fuego, a political art show being held at the Alternative Gallery on Tuesday, May 5th from 6 to 9 p.m. Joining me are Leona, Angelica, and Diana, the artists curating the upcoming Fuego political art show. We'll be chatting all about that exhibit, as well as peeling back the layers of their personal work. Hello, ladies. Welcome to our Bazaar.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having us.
I know Diana can't hear the music here, but it's like kind of rocking out right now.
It is very inspiring.
The intro music obviously has some significance to this episode, which we'll get into in a bit. But for now, why don't you all introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of information about what it is you do? Whoever wants to start first.
I guess it's going to be me. Hi, I'm Leona. So the path for becoming an artist is being like really new for me, thanks to Diana, actually, that it's here. That's when I started to be more interested in painting and doing all these amazing cathartic activities, at least for me, since I met her. I am kind of new in this art world, but ever since I met her, and she kind of forced me and pushed me to become an artist. I'm learning, but it's been amazing. So probably just been painting for 2 years now, but I think I'm really happy about this part of my life, this new part of my life, becoming an artist.
Does it feel natural to you?
It started to feel natural at the beginning. I was working with a lot of watercolors. Then I changed to acrylics, and now it's like harder because you kind of see on my work that all the watercolors are just plants, animals, things that are not as deep. But then when everything started, and basically what this show it's about, this upcoming show, that's when I started to change my media and also these subjects of my paintings. So now it didn't feel not as natural as I would like to, but I'm getting there.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Angelica, and I am not a painter, but my personal history with art has to do with acting. I used to do theater. I did it for about 7 years, and I've always loved art, every type of art. And I'm currently writing poetry. I've been writing poetry on and off since I was 14. I started doing short erotic stories when I was 14, and then that's kind of like what I explore with my poetry, and also having a background in social psychology. I've always been interested in that connection between the human psychology and art, and how it helps to express what happens in society. So, yeah, that's basically my personal story with art.
Beautiful. The world needs more poets.
I agree.
Hi, so my name is Diana. I actually have a really long history with art, and this is going to be my first political show. But all my art has always been very political. It wasn't always obvious. Sometimes you had to know what the symbols were, what their meaning was, and kind of follow along to understand. I started drawing very, very young. My dad was an artist, so my mom put me right away to private classes with Russian teachers, and they were not gentle with my soul. And a lot of my art was technical for a long time, so that kind of killed my desire to draw, and I left it alone and went to study psychology, which ironically led me back to art. So I started studying just regular psychology, and I started traveling afterwards because I felt so pent up being in school and following all the rules, and I was like, oh, this is not me. So once I started traveling, I kind of started farming, and I was like, oh, that's not for me either. And then farming led to clay, which was adjacent. I was covered in dirt no matter what. So I was like, all right, well, I actually liked the clay, and I got it really, really quickly. And then I found out afterwards that my dad was a ceramic artist as well, and I did not know that. So I got super, super, super into clay, and I started to make a lot of functional work, and all of my functional work kind of centered around women and around our collective needs and sort of expressing like the beauty of women, not through men's eyes, but through our eyes. Like, what do I see women like? And they were just a lot of symbolical sort of gestures on my pieces. Originally, it was just like dots and lines that symbolically represented women. It represented the sacred trilogy, like the three forms that we step into as women, being young and then turning into our second form and our last form, the crone, the goal. So that was kind of what I led with. And that work led me back to drawing because I started to sort of experiment with drawing on my ceramics. It wasn't enough. And I kept seeing all these artists, they were doing sgraffito on their ceramics. And I was like, oh, it's so juicy. I needed it so badly. So I started to kind of cut into my pieces and add lines. And then I had my son, and it forced me completely out of ceramics. Like, I could play at home, but I couldn't be in a studio 24/7 the way I liked. So I started to paint. And I started with watercolor. And I was like, you know what? I want to take all the technical parts out of it. That's what like psychologically screwed me up. And I just started to kind of move color around. And that led me to go back to school. And I am finishing my art therapy degree now in these last few weeks.
Crunch time.
Yeah. Oh my God. So then that led me to explore other mediums. And I kind of am a really open artist. I'm multidisciplinary in the sense that I've tried a lot of different things, and I've kind of landed on linoleum and print work. So I do some screen printing and I do some linoleum printing. I also still do ceramics, not just functionally, but sculpturally as well. And I primarily work with oil colors. I do love watercolors and mixed media pieces. And lately I've been kind of playing around with collaging both handmade paper and fabrics that are like recycled fabrics. So there's a lot of like nuance and play with a lot of my work because one informs the other oftentimes. And so I've been able to kind of go more deeply with each of them simply because I'm playing with so much that I'm like, oh, I did this in this one. I could apply it here. And that's kind of what I do. I just sort of like translate one media into another. And the goal for me has always been political. It has always been to make sure that people understood their power, because creating art is creating a world. You're creating an image, you're letting people into your mind, into your freaky little weird thoughts and your little like crazy drawings and doodles. And it's such a vulnerable thing to do, to create a different like world. In doing so, I hope to encourage other people that they can also create a different world. And sometimes it's through images, sometimes it's through words, sometimes it's through food. Sometimes it's through cultural sharing and knowledge. But that's kind of the purpose of my work, is to show that everything's interconnected and we need to honor it and step into our creative selves, because that's the only way to really be a human. It's the language of humans. It's to create.
Cave art actually existed before language, so it is kind of the most essential form of communication when you break it down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, between the three of you, there's a wide variety of artistic mediums here. How did the three of you kind of meet and come together to now work on something like Fuego?
We met through a meditation circle in downtown Easton. And when I met these two beautiful women, I just clicked with them. I click in very like deep levels, spiritual levels, and also political levels. A year ago, actually, we started to plan this show. It was just ideas. It was more like being us speaking of what we can do, not as an artist, just as a human beings, just a decent human beings, what we can do to step up and speak about everything that is happening right now in the country. So through this year, we've been just trying to find spaces and people that matches with these ideologies that we have. And that's how we met, through meditation circles.
Wow. Would either of you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess also kind of like connecting with what Diana was saying, the importance of being able to show how sensitive you are, to find safe places and safe people, to show how vulnerable you are and how there's beauty in expressing that, especially with what Leona was just saying, the way things are right now. It's kind of like if you show any trait that has to do with that deep side of your humanity. It's like condemned, right? We are being forced to not feel, not express, just be like what you've been taught, what you've been told, and that's it. It's like there is individuality is being pushed so much, like that agenda, but not in a way to show your unique and genuine self, but more like to separate you from community, from that bond that you have with like your neighbor, right? And it's literally in everything, in the way we communicate with one another, how we interact. Everything's virtual now. You can even buy anything online. You don't even have to go to the shop anymore. So like a lot of those social interactions and connections are getting lost in the way. That's why I think that when we met, like such a strong connection and a spark, because we are craving that. We have been, with like lockdown and COVID and everything, just the way humans have been interacting with each other. We no longer have what we had 5-6 years ago. So we're all kind of like hungry for that connection, especially for people like us that have that kind of like sensitivity and vulnerability. It's important for us to keep that alive. So I think that's one of the main reasons we came together. And obviously at first we didn't know what to do with it. We just knew that we felt frustrated and angry, and we knew that that place of like frustration and anger was not really going to take us anywhere unless we acted on it. And this is how we started having meetings at Leona's house. We were meeting there weekly, and it just kind of turned into what it is now. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and say that we were not scared because of our situations, right? I was in the process of getting my citizenship at the time, and it was just like scary. It was really scary. But I think that we are beyond that place of fear. We feel that need to act and to do something and talk about it and be around other people that are probably feeling not the same exact way, but that can relate to our story and, what we've all been through as immigrants, as citizens, as residents of this nation. Yeah, I think that's what has kept us together in the same rooms.
There's a phrase that I absolutely love that I can relate with what Angelica is saying, and it's that the government currently, they're taking from us so many things that they also took our freer, and that's why we're here.
I love that. I mean, I don't love what they're doing, but it's kind of an empowering saying when you apply it to what you're trying to do. And with what Angelica was just saying, this is something I hear quite often, especially from artists, about the loss of physical spaces. How things went because of the internet, because of the pandemic, it's very difficult to maintain these spaces. And just like you said that you were meeting at Leona's house, everybody needs a spot to go to. And when you don't have places, well, we got to meet at a buddy's house. We got to go to the park. We got to go somewhere. We have to do something. And I just want to state this because I don't know if we made it super, super clear in the intro, but the three of you are all immigrants and you were born in other countries.
Right.
So,
Correct.
yes. So with the ongoing issues in the United States, I mean, this affects you in ways that it doesn't affect people who were born here.
It does. It happens every single day with like very minor action. Even going to the corner shop to buy something, and it's so scary to see a ban and to see even a white regular person just walking and maybe see you differently for 3 more seconds that it's normally accepted. You feel that there's something going on. You feel that you're going to be attacked, and maybe citizens here, that they don't see that, they don't have that fear, and they wonder why you are so scared. They wonder why you're like so angry when you're working, but they don't see those minor things that even going to a gas station and get out of your car and put gasoline, you're afraid.
You feel like you're putting your life at risk just by doing basic day-to-day things. And, you hear a lot of people who say, oh, well, just come here legally. And really, in this situation, that doesn't mean anything. So many people who were doing the right thing still got swept up in this. And I think that's been lost in a lot of the noise. And I think that justifies a lot of your fears. And people who may not have interacted, had a relationship with someone in your position, they don't know that real world experience, unfortunately.
And I think it's very clear that they are also targeting skin color. And
Absolutely.
You can see it like on every video. Like they're not dragging white people. They're not dragging other people that it's not brown.
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern there. That's hard for them to deny.
To speak to what Leona is saying, me being a white immigrant, that is the reality. Like, I understand that it impacts me and my papers are there, but it doesn't impact me the way that it would impact me if I was brown. So understanding that I can walk around anywhere and no one has the assumption that I'm an immigrant, because by looking at me, you do not know that. So the safety is within my skin color.
In California, the federal government argued in defense of racial profiling and was allowed to move forward with it. They're not even hiding it.
Yeah, and I think it's really obvious because who they're targeting, right? It's very, very, very clear that the point isn't whether you've immigrated here or not. I mean, look at who's the president's wife, right?
Yes.
If we're going to discuss immigration, the issue isn't with white immigration, right? We're still targeting the same things we've always targeted. And we're going to utilize the word immigration, but we're not going to actually apply it to all immigrants. And so for me, the goal here was to show solidarity, because the reality is that no matter what, we are all immigrants, and immigrants change this country. And the reality is that humans migrate. Humans have always migrated, and humans need to migrate. And so when we even imply that they shouldn't move, right? Then what are we, hostages to the land, right? And even so, even if you stayed on your land, right? Which, as we know, like most of the people that are immigrants here of color are from the Americas, whether that be the North Americas or the South Americas, those are the Americas. So it's really strange to say that a white immigrant can come in here and be perfectly okay, but someone who is from here, is of the Americas, can't. That's the disparity there that is challenging. This is the same narrative as it's always been, is that we want to turn this area into a white area. The reality is that invasive species, if you want to call us that, cannot stay in a space without harming, right? Like if you bring in even a flower into a new country, it's going to impact the entire ecosystem. So if we're going to see it as somebody coming in and impacting the ecosystem, it's not the people that were here already, right? They are of this land, and they know this land in a way that nobody coming from Europe could possibly understand. Nobody coming from Russia, nobody coming from a different country can understand this land. So I think it's important to talk about those differences, because my experience is not the same. And I still think that it's really important that all the people that are immigrants add to this conversation, because it's not affecting us equally. And we all need to speak up and all need to work together solidly, because why am I getting privilege here? It doesn't make any sense. So then it's not an immigration issue. We have to speak to a different narrative. It's a being of color issue. And we're just going to utilize the understanding of immigration to target people because it's what works. It's what works.
Well, and there's a specific point I'd like to make here regarding who's making a lot of these laws. Stephen Miller, he was responsible in Trump's first administration for the family separation policies, basically for all immigration policy. And if you just look at what he's enchanted by, what he's inspired by, it ties into what you're doing with this upcoming show, which I think this is a good time to at least speak on Fuego's part of what the art exhibition aspect is with the SS laws.
Right.
Can you explain that?
So this is not something that they came up of, we're just going to target brown people and everybody is going to be great again because we're going to get rid of these brown people. That it doesn't work like that. There's specific things that happen already in history that tell us for sure that what they are doing is just having this scapegoat, which right now are like all the brown immigrants, but in their past it was the Jewish people. So what they do is trying to have a common enemy for everybody. So the common enemy in World War II, it was the Jewish people. Those were the people that they were the criminals. They were the worst of the worst. So this speech is just a hate speech that it's going to use the hate, the power of the hate for having this common enemy. And this strategy is the people being afraid of one particular group. And when you're afraid, you are trying to find a governor or a leader that is going to get rid of all these people because you're afraid of these people, because you don't know the culture, you don't know anything about it, and you're threatened by it.
And the way they speak about them is that they're less than human, they're vermin.
And that's the same language that they were using for Jewish in World War II.
I think that's what's so frustrating about this is like we've seen this in recent history. This is played out. We can see the documentaries. We can see the evidence. So to be here is infuriating.
History repeats itself.
Yeah, the wrong parts, it seems.
If you don't know it, yes, it's going to repeat itself.
Oh, it's definitely at least partially an education problem in this country.
And that's the other issue, that by defunding the education, by banning books, we're just going through a spiral of repeating the history again. And it seems that all the strategies that some dictators in the past, they're being used here right now in this country to get more power. We saw it in multiple dictatorships, not only in the Nazi Germany. We also saw it in Latin America. And I feel that because of the United States hasn't had that, luckily, it hasn't had the dictators in the past, it's hard to recognize those early warning signs and early red flags. But in Latin America, it already happened. In Nazi Germany, it happened, and it's happening right now. All the banning the books, the funding education, the funding also the public communication system, all of that, it already happened multiple times all around the world. But now it's happening here.
So tell me how you're going to visualize this in this upcoming show to make it very obvious for those who may not be educated that we're back to where we were not even 100 years ago.
So we want to do a timeline where all the events leading to the Holocaust happened. Because when you think about the Nazis, you just think about the Holocaust. You don't actually wonder what happened in order to the Holocaust, basically like...
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight. There were steps that led there.
It didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all these tiny steps that they led to that happen, we're going to do this timeline where you can actually see what happened in Nazi Germany and what is happening right now, which is basically a bunch of laws that they're already trying to establish here, which is the
birthright citizenship. Yeah.
It already happened in Nuremberg. And you can see actually like if you can just Google it and it's there. If you read the Nuremberg laws, it's basically removing the right to be a citizen of the Jewish people at that time. They took their passports. They were massive deportations as well. That happened before the establishment of the Nazi camps.
The concentration camps.
And right now we are building those concentration camps right now.
That's why I think when people call these ICE camps concentration camps, I like the directness of it. I like the not beating around it because that's what they are.
Yes, we need to stop sugarcoating things and calling them by a different name than what they actually are.
Yeah, don't dress it up.
Yes.
I think it's important to tie it back and kind of state that I think the reason why we're using Nazi Germany as an example is probably because it's the most widely known example. Unfortunately, it is not the only example. And Nazi Germany learned from the US. So it's a really strange loop that we are kind of connecting, because the reality is that what they learned from the US. They understood how to control people in that way. They saw the segregation. They saw all of these things, and they did, in the Times, celebrate Hitler. They had his image in the Times. the reality is
He was
that
on the cover.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was, as somebody making changes. And so, like, the reality is that we were not necessarily against it, right? And then we did invite Nazis to come back
Madison Square
to
Garden.
the U.S.
Yeah.
afterwards.
Oh.
Scientists
Oh, yes.
and different people that were considered, like, educated and helpful and useful were invited back into the U.S. after the Nuremberg trials. So it's telling. It's telling that we were not against necessarily killing the Jews. And why would we be, right? Like, we're not against killing anybody. So the reality is that there were concentration camps here already. We had Chinese internment camps.
Japanese.
Was it Japanese?
Japanese during World War II.
Yes, the Japanese internment camps, but there were also Chinese camps. And I don't know the exact details, but I just know that there were multiple camps already here that were used to send people back after their work has been done. So we utilized you, we utilized your knowledge, your labor, and we're going to send you back. It's no different from how the country was started.
One of the things that drives me crazy about this country is, like, every few years there's a new boogeyman. When's the last time on the news you heard about Islamic terrorists, which were gripping the country with fear for 20 years after 9/11?
Right.
And then, Antifa, you don't hear about how Antifa is the boogeyman so much anymore. They call it the radical left now. There's always got to be a boogeyman. And one of the things that really pisses me off is that people were, like, silly enough to go for the concept of immigrants being the problem. The people with no money and no power, they're the ones screwing it all up, not the people at the top with all the money and the power. And that's where I think there is starting to be an awakening in American society. I think, artists have a huge role to play in this. And I think we're shifting from terror to rage. Would you agree with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally agree with that. Yes.
How can this show help not just empower artists, but regular people to join us?
We were actually talking about it, Angelica and I, yesterday, and I feel that this show, it's a huge opportunity to meet people that are equally angry, equally sick of all these injustice, and trying to actively do something beyond a cell phone, something beyond just online activism. So I think it's an amazing opportunity to actually start something outside the phones.
Yes, actions, right? How can we find ways to not just align, but act on the things that we align with? I think that we're trying to figure out and come up with some ideas to present the day of the show for people to come together and take action in their community. We're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like because we're fairly new to this as well. It's different. We've had the experience of being social activists in our country back home. So we kind of have that experience of, like getting together
What
and
it works, what doesn't work.
what doesn't work.
Organizing here is extremely
Yes.
different. Yeah.
Yes.
Like we've had these conversations in the past where unfortunately this country hasn't yet figured out how to protest. We're getting there though.
Yeah, but you know what? Even it still works. It works because it puts the focus on what's happening. And I was just talking to Leona about this the other day when people come up to me and they ask me, and what's going to change with your show? What's going to change with the protest? And to me, the mere fact that they're asking me that question, that's already made an impact on them. That's already changed because it makes people uncomfortable. I feel like when something is being watched by others and it makes them uncomfortable, that's the seed of change. And it's not that my existence bothers you. It's what bothers you subconsciously. And this might be just me with my psychological background. But it faces you with your own questions of your own beliefs. Like, what is it about my beliefs and yours that's so, like, the difference that's shocking? Because you start to question yourself. That's what makes you uncomfortable. And I think that's a precious gift of art and community and people coming together. If you're going to question yourself, you may not change. But if there is a slight second when you stop and think, oh, maybe, I'm just repeating what I was taught. Maybe I don't really believe this. Maybe there are different ways of thinking, different perspectives. Like if that opens up room for questioning yourself and how you move through life, what your political stand is, then I think that's grandiose. Like, that's big.
That is a good point, though, because I know a lot of people on the right make fun of these No Kings protests, which now collectively have become the largest single-day protests in the history of the United States. But at the very least, it has made Donald Trump deny that he's not a king. He wouldn't have said that before. And the message that, I see these people online saying, Trump can't even do this thing. He's not a king. It's not the fact that he's is a king. It's that he wants to be a king.
Let's not forget, he's a doctor now, okay?
Yes. Yes, the Messiah doctor, which, I think part of the issue here is the fact that because that's an AI piece of art, the United States, we're already going through an identity crisis, and we happen to be doing so now through Donald Trump, through the pandemic, through social media, and now through AI. When people ask me, are you worried about AI? I'm like, hell yeah. They're like, why? We couldn't even handle social media. And now you're throwing AI into the mix.
Well, we are using AI for war. Like, look at Iran. Iran is doing all these Lego videos with AI.
Yes.
And it's basically part of their propaganda. Propaganda is something that it's been with us forever, since like the First World War.
Even worse than that, though, apparently the federal government used AI to capture Maduro in Venezuela.
And I think also, yes, the technology, right? And how it's weaponized and all of that. But if you go even further, it starts to affect critical thinking.
Yes.
When people just go to ChatGPT for whatever, like the smallest of question.
Mm-hmm.
And people are not picking up books anymore. They just rely on ChatGPT to summarize a historical event or, whatever. And who's behind it? Who's behind all of this AI? What is the narrative that they want you to learn or to go by? I find I'm flabbergasted because people don't read anymore.
Well, they said there was a study that came out that said Gen Z is apparently going to be the first generation in human history that's not as intelligent as the previous generation. And that is due to, exactly as you said, a lack of critical thinking. I mean, again, it goes back to what we were saying, these physical spaces and the importance of them. And with this show, Fuego, I mean, we have the historical aspect that we're going to be presenting, physical paintings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Angelica, you're going to be doing poetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have music as well.
Yes, we are going to have a mariachi singer and also a guitar player. Going to play a couple of chords.
To mix all those things together in this kind of show is really, really special. And I'll tell you, we had this, and I guess this is kind of how we connected. We had Icebreaker back in March. Right. And it was a huge turnout. It was a phenomenal show. And it was much like we're talking about right now, the collective need for artists and creatives to get together and do something. And we came together because you heard about the show.
Yes.
And you went through a similar experience. And now we're here, basically round 2, ready to make it happen.
Round 2.
We've already got an amazing response to this event. What kind of response are you getting so far?
So I've been meeting with other artists. They're also very excited. There are some artists that hopefully can make it, but they're in another part of the world, and they really wanted to come and be part of this, because my main goal with this show, and I think our main goal, is empowering people and not leaving these people just with that rage or that fear of, there's nothing that we can do about it, and we're just going to have another Holocaust. So my main goal it's to reunite these people and start to make these connections and these nets of people that change is possible through art. And I think art, that's where the art of power comes. And that's why it's very, very important to have these type of shows, because at least like for me, when I was painting, all these paintings that I have related to ICE, related to all the political issues that are happening right now, they have a life now, and they are like outside communicating something to the people. And I think it happens the same thing with poetry, and it's going to happen eventually also like with music. They have these powerful message that we can share. And the main point of doing this show is not going just to see art just because. It's just to keep that message to you and have the message in your heart, knowing that it's possible that maybe in, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, those pieces of art is going to be an historical document that we were able to destroy this dictatorship.
They absolutely are going to be historical documents. And I'm glad you look at it that way, because I feel so much about what art is what we're leaving for the future. But it's not just what we're doing in the show. The date of the show is significant as well.
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
A lot of American citizens, they think that Cinco de Mayo is our day of independence or revolution, but it wasn't. It was just a battle. But this battle has a huge significance because there was this big French army. The army had everything possible: uniforms, training, weapons, the best of the best. And we were outnumbered. Had just sticks and stones. And very outnumbered, no trained at all. And we were still able to defeat the French.
Power of the people, baby.
Yes, that's the
Yes.
theme, the power of the people.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yes. And just to add to that, the power of art too, right? Yes, it's going to leave an imprint for the future, but also how powerful it can be in the present time, because art right now, it's helping people to survive. This type of self-expression really saves lives in more ways than you can imagine, right? And I think that's both, beautiful and powerful. And just like Leona said, putting the message out there that you can also be a part of this movement and not just survive, not just get by every day, because we're so bombarded and attacked with all these things. It's so hard to keep up. But art has this way of release. It's like a beautiful way to release all of those feelings and all of those frustrations. But when it becomes something physical in the world and you get a chance to connect with other artists, it just becomes like such a magnificent tool of connection and empowerment. And I think that's also the message that we're trying to get across and to send out.
Absolutely. I think I want to add to that and say, like, what Leona was saying, what Angelica was saying about it being something that, people wonder, like, why are you doing this, right? Like, what's the point? What's it going to change? And I think the main thing that I say to most people is that change is inevitable. Nothing ever stays the same. So when we question things like that, like, oh, well, what if, things just get worse and worse and worse? It's possible if that's all we can imagine, right? And that's where the artist comes in, right? If all I can imagine is the worst, what am I going to do, right? If I can imagine my body is going to degrade, well, am I going to take care of it? No, because it's going to die anyway. So I'm going to be like, okay, well, I give up. And that action of giving up is exactly the point. That's the point. I'm going to overwhelm you until your nervous system is bombarded. And now all you can do is like shut down and give up. So the question isn't why are we doing this? The question is, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't more people doing this? And for me, the answer is that most people have been taught to separate themselves from their creativity very young. Very young, we were taught that creativity has to be correct. But in being correct, it cannot be creative. So in these ways, we've also taught people not to make mistakes, not to speak up, not to be who they are, because God forbid I look wrong. The worst thing we can do in this country is be wrong. And being wrong inherently is being human, because to be human is to try, to fail, and to get up. When you see a child learning to be a human, you see them trying and failing repeatedly until they finally become more, quote unquote, human-like, right? More what we understand to be correct. And they don't have this fear innately. They don't have this like, oh, I'm gonna, fall, so I shouldn't walk, right? They just keep going. And I think that's what artists have as well, is this internal knowledge that like, I can just keep going. I don't have the answers. And my creative practice sort of loops back and reinforms me of that. Every time I try a new material, every time I play with something, that action allows my brain to know that you do not need to know everything in order to start. This is exactly what I push, because when I see someone creating and they're like, I can't be an artist, I'm like, well, you can by simply behaving like one. In order to go to sleep, we pretend that we're asleep. I heard someone say this, and I'm so sorry I cannot link the quote to the person who said this, but it was a woman who I was watching on Instagram, if that helps at all. But she was saying, in order to sleep, we have to first pretend that we are asleep. We have to take that action of sleep in order for our body to then follow through. And when she said that, I was like, those were the words, and I wish I could give her credit where credit is due, but those were the words that were like, yeah, exactly. This is what I did. I was like, okay, well, in order to be an artist, I have to draw. In order to be a writer, you have to write. And so in order to be somebody who changes the world, you have to believe that your existence in and of itself makes a difference, because it does. Because even one little bug coming into this country changes the ecosystem, right? A bug that doesn't, come from here. So when we're looking at little things and we're making them irrelevant, our minds may make them irrelevant, but the universe won't, right? Like it'll still have the impact that it has, regardless of if we believe that it's going to make a change or if it won't make a change. We don't really need to understand, because we can't imagine what kind of change it's going to make in the next 5, 10, 20, 100, 200, thousands of years. We can't imagine that, and we don't need to. The point isn't to imagine what the future is going to hold. The point is to know what you need to do right now, because the only moment that exists is the one that is existing now. So if you are channeling your anger through painting or drawing or dancing or any other language, because that's what those are languages that have been lost to most people, right? We as humans used to communicate many ways, and we've reduced it to verbally vomiting at each other, which I think is problematic. But
well, it seems like we have more ways to communicate than ever, but we can't get through to one another anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, I think artists, again, like I said earlier, have a huge role to play in this, and maybe Americans are missing it. Like you hear a lot anytime somebody like Bruce Springsteen or any kind of major pop artist or celebrity tries to say something politically, people want to just separate it. Why can't he just focus on music? And it's like, well, art has always been political, number one.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, they can do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to tell an artist what to do with their art? And I think therein lies the problem. We don't even understand what art or an artist is in this country. And now, being that all three of you were born in other countries, is it different where you're from? Do people understand the arts better? Do they connect with the arts better? Is it more of a problem here in the United States, or is it a human problem?
I'm just gonna say my experience, my personal experience, growing up in Mexico. I think I was exposed to art at a very early stage in my life. Like it's very common for you to go to museums when you're in school, and you just see art everywhere. It's literally in the streets.
In our textbooks.
Yes, in our textbooks, you study poetry, you study painters, and it's everywhere. It's like literally
money,
art.
The 100 peso bill.
Yes.
It has a poem in the back of Netzahualcoyotl.
Yes. Yeah, and it's just like our Mexican history. It's so ingrained in our everyday culture. It's the music that we listen to, the colors in our buildings. It's just literally everywhere. You cannot escape it. You go to the main plaza and they have dancers on the weekends. They have music. It's there, and it's accessible for everyone to see it. It doesn't have to be this thing that it's only part of the
separate it.
Yes, or like the higher classes or anything like that. It's like it's our culture. It's there for everyone.
And that was my experience when I visited Mexico 2 years ago. Was, first of all, immediately you see murals everywhere. And not just murals, but murals of indigenous people, murals of their culture. Mexico loves its cultures, really. And that was something that I jumped out to me because it's like, this is what I want where I'm from. The arts should be for everybody. How about you, Diana? Do you have like a larger access and appreciation for arts where you're from?
I can't speak to all of Russia because it is a massive, massive piece of land.
Yes.
And my experience there was quite limited. I did immigrate when I was about 2, going on 3. Within my family, we were all artists. Like, so my dad was an artist. My grandma was a piano player and a singer. My grandpa was also a piano player and a singer. I would say, like, my aunt was an artist. So many people within our space were either artists or writers. My uncle wrote poetry. He writes poetry. And so it was just surrounding me. My mom would take me to every museum she could take me to. She would educate me on the history of some of these paintings and why they're there and what's the meaning behind the symbolism. So it was just sort of ingrained in my day-to-day. And then, of course, like my art classes and my teachers at the time. So what I do understand is that arts have always been used politically. And so I do think that they were used politically within Russia as well, but they were honored. And like, it was important to do art. It was important to do ballet. It was important to develop your body and your mind and to understand things. Education was valued. And so I was raised in a way that was very, and I want to clarify, like, we were Russian Jews. We were like not within the main space in Russia, you know. So in Russia, there was a lot of discrimination against Jews, which is why we left. And 1992 was the falling of the empire. You know, it all fell apart and we left for safety. We were always sort of educating in secret because you had to.
Wow.
You had to. So like, you were obviously educated by the country, but you had to be educated on your own culture in secret. And a lot of things were different. Like my great-grandparents changed their names. So like, there was just a really big appreciation for history, for culture, for knowledge, for arts within me that was just always ingrained. And I find that here, the issue isn't so much that people aren't curious. I find that the issue is that people are afraid to be loud. People are afraid to be knowledgeable. People are afraid to be questioned because they don't want to look nerdy and they don't want to be an inconvenience and they don't want to correct anybody because God forbid their feelings are hurt. And so there isn't as much room for debate in a respectful, educated manner, because debate isn't about proving the other person wrong. It's about coming together to deeply understand something, right? And in Jewish culture, that is really common. Like, people will debate each other. They will completely disagree. They will completely not come together on some of the ideas. They say for every Jew, there's a different like understanding of Judaism, right? Like, everyone has a different way because it's a massive diaspora. It's not just here, they're everywhere. So we all have a different way. There's different cultures that came into play. There's Jews in India, there's Jews in Spain. So those interactions changed how we see things. And so debating was not something that was problematic. You came together to have a deeper understanding. You shook hands and you walked away. And I think that here, the main fear is that we're going to disagree. And in being afraid of the disagreement, we avoid the conversation entirely. We avoid feeling too smart or too informed because everybody else might be offended, like, you know. And so I think that the more that we kind of push that narrative that like it is okay for people to disagree.
Yes.
That's actually very human for people to disagree.
We can't just have one flavor.
No.
You know, you need it all. And it's like, we're kind of taught in an early age in this country. I don't know if it's the same where everyone here is from. Don't discuss religion or politics. And that was always insane to me. It's like, yeah, let's just not talk about the things that shape the entire human condition.
Yes. Those are topics that people try to avoid, especially when they're just, you know, like meeting each other.
Sure.
I had to intervene, sorry. But for me, it's like, it's something I bring up right away. I
love that.
Yeah. It's like, I want to know what your political stand is, or what you align with, what you stand for. I want to know what you think about religion.
Do you find yourself doing this more now, or have you always done this?
I've always done that. It just comes natural to me, but definitely lately.
You're a good kind of troublemaker. Lately. I like this.
I'm harmless. But yeah, it's just like, because those are things that I feel strongly about. Yeah, it's just something that I always like to talk about and bring up. because I like to hear what people have to say. And it also gives me an idea about what the person in front of me, what happens in their life and how they move through life, and if they have been able to construct a narrative for themselves, if they're just like repeating generational patterns, or it allows me to understand the person in front of me more. I don't want to know maybe I do want to know what your favorite color is, but I want to know what you stand for.
You want to get to the deeper things.
Yes. I'm not afraid to dig into that. I want the substantial.
Wow. Yeah, anyone that's listening to this, take a page from Angelica's book. This is badass. I love it. So this being discussed here, anytime someone asks any of you why you're doing this show, I think in addition to all the great things you've said, and probably haven't had a chance to say in addition to that, you can say so that you Americans can appreciate the arts a bit more. Because I think that's at least partially what got us into this damn mess. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
I think that there's a massive cultural exchange in doing this. I think that there are plenty of people trying to do something about it, and there are people who aren't. And the more that we step forward and show each other who we can be, the easier it is for other people to join. Because there always need to be first people, and we'll see this in a lot of psychological experiments where there'll be the first people, then the second people, then the third people, and then the rest of the herd, right? And so we want the rest of the herd to come.
It's like that video of the one guy that starts dancing where no one's dancing, and then slowly but surely, one after another, until everyone's dancing.
Exactly. And you can see this on a microcosmic level and a macrocosmic level. Once one form of energy starts moving, the energy around it moves too. So the point is for us to sort of just empower other people. I really don't want to name anyone as good or bad. I don't want to name Americans as impoverished in art because I don't think that's the case. I think that there's just a lack of ability to necessarily step forward and be confident in your love of it. Whatever that art may be, the confidence to speak about it, the confidence to say, I don't know. Teach me. Let me play with whatever it is and let me explore this side of myself because it's been dead for 20 years or however long, So I think that's really what I want this show to be about. I think for us, the point is for people to come and to be empowered within themselves to find that language, whatever that may be for them, because it's about us showing how we moved forward. Because again, like as artists, like you start as a normal human being, you know what I mean? And then you decide I want to make a difference. You decide I want to be this person. And everybody can make that decision, no matter where they come from, no matter if they're American, if they're Mexican, wherever they're from, everyone can make that decision right now and today to honor the arts and honor what they love. Because most people love the arts. Even if it's television, that comes from the arts.
I agree with that. And I always get crazy when people call it the idiot box. I'm like, come on, some of the best human stories ever told were on television, right? And you're absolutely right. Empowering people by letting them know the fate's in their hands and they can do these things. On the last podcast that my buddy Sam and I did, who's doing the art show right before your show, him and I got into the conversation too, where we both like to tell people, like, we're not special in what we do. Anybody can do what we do.
Yes,
right?
yes. And we need to know how. We need blueprints, right? Because at the end of the day, what's happening is that the people that are organizing are not the right people. We know we need to organize.
And that's why the three of you and all of our good friends that are going to be here, we're going to change the damn world.
We are.
Do you feel it?
I feel it. I'm pretty confident. I think that all this frustration that I've been like dealing for months and months and months, I think this is a breaking point, and we just need to be the change that the world needs. And with each one of us, I think we're gonna make it pretty soon. I am confident.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
So what do you hope people get out of this exhibit? When they come here, they experience it. What do you hope is the next step for them?
Action.
Great. And we talked about having some lists of resources for people to hand out, correct?
Yes. So we're still working on it, but we definitely want to start tables for the people to actually sit and And I know that everybody that is going to come to the show has something very valuable that they can bring to the table. And I think we are at this point sick of just texting comments online, on Instagram, on a video that makes you mad. I think at this point, all that people that has these gifts, it can either be their own studies or their own work. They can bring something to the table to take action on it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anybody who has any kind of prior experience, even if someone's never been involved with anything, has never created art. And I think we should stress that too. This is not just for artists. This is
It's not.
Oh, no, definitely
Not even
not.
a
This is
not
for
just for
everybody.
activists.
Yes.
This is for human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the goal is for people to walk away knowing that they can do things.
And that also that they have a community. Everybody that it's going to be there in the show, they share the same feelings. They want to see something good in this country. We want to see something good in this country, and it's definitely not this administration that is happening
they're
right now.
opposite direction of where we're going.
And the fact that we are the three of us, like not from this country, and we're doing this, it's not because we hate Americans. That's not the point. The point is that we love this country so much because it's our house, it's our home.
Exactly.
We want to see a lovely community because we see the potential on it. We see the potential on everybody, and that's, I think, the main reason why it moves us so much. Because if it was another people that doesn't like to be in this country, we would just like go. Why we don't go? Because we want to be here having a positive impact in the society. Like the three of us, we have our bachelor's degree, we have master's degrees. We are useful people here that wanna share that. We wanna love this country, so we are doing this out of love, not out of hate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you came here for a reason. You believed in something, you saw something, and then, you've been here only a few years for shit to hit the fan the way that it has. It's unacceptable. And for somebody like me who was born and raised in this country, I feel an obligation to you and people like you that when you come here, things need to be right. You deserve better. You deserve way better than what you're experiencing in this country right now. And I'm glad that you believe in this country, and it's people like you that are going to actually make this country great.
We all have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
And I think that to answer your earlier question, like what I like people to walk away from, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I want people to walk away knowing that they have the ability to make even a small change. Right. And so I think that we think in these very large formats, right? Like I'm going to go and I'm going to do all this stuff, right? But sometimes it's just that one change of like, you know what? I'm going to take care of the person next to me. I have a neighbor and they're older and they have a hard time going up and down the steps. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help them go up and down the steps, or I have somebody who needs to mow their lawn and they can't. And these tiny actions are what creates community. Stepping out and seeing who needs what. Creating music, creating art, creating collaborative efforts. And I think that in doing that, we're saying to people, hey, we're just three regular people that are coming together to do this, right? And I think that they can do so too. They can take tiny actions, feed their neighbor, even if it's one neighbor, even if it's the neighborhood cat, okay? Like start small. Whatever that step is, the goal is for you to feel connected to somebody. I think we oftentimes really think about changing everybody else, right? Like, oh, how am I going to change the world? And how am I going to change everybody else's opinion? And I really think it starts with changing how you behave. And you will impact the people around you because you're behaving in such a way that it changes people. Simply by going to a space and drawing in that space, you've gotten attention and you've changed the people there. You've changed what their narrative is. And I think that in embracing the small things, we can make larger things happen much, much, much faster than aiming for these really big goals that seem unreachable. We can aim for tiny goals.
That's a great take. Amazing take. And it's realistic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not as poetic as Angelica here, but I guess it's a romantic in me that wants to, I want to save the world. I want to change the world, right? And it's, you're kind of grounding us right now with even these little things make a big impact. You're right. It just takes a little tiny thing sometimes. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And I would also like to add that it would be nice if people remember that creating is resisting and resisting is changing. So, yeah, I think that's one of the main goals for me to be part of this show. Being creative means resistance.
And if people love the show so much and they ask for more, what do we do then? Do we give it to them? Do you want to plan more stuff in the future?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. Create community.
That's the
through
answer I was
tats.
hoping for.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm glad you found this space because I know you were seeking things out for a while, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that because last week we were in Easton. There's a bookshop there. It's called Book and Puppet. And they were running a show very similar as the one that we're doing it here. And one of the artists there was mentioning that he was also seeking a place for his art, his political art specifically. So I feel that we are there as neighbors in their community, that they are just like seeking this big part of art that it actually is speaking up of what is happening. And we know that we can reach so many like frustrated people, frustrated artists that they're painting right now, they're creating, they're writing, they're making songs. We can reach all that people and just create this amazing space for an actual change. That would be like one of the goals. Just keep bringing more people and keep adding more people to what it's already moving on.
Yes. Keep adding fuel to this fire,
Fuego.
to this
Yes,
Fuego.
yes, yes. So I think that's a great point. And I think that the more we include people, the more people know they're included. They're included without having to get an invitation. But here's the invitation. You're included.
Yeah, it's not exclusive.
No.
Get your
no.
butts out here or anywhere that's doing something like this. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share with anyone listening about your show or art or just anything?
Well, I think it's important to, first of all, thank you for providing this
Yes,
this space.
thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
For making us feel welcomed and safe.
And then we matter.
Yes.
do matter.
And that we matter.
You do matter.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yes. It's been really difficult for us to just navigate through everyday life for the past year, a little over a year. So this is definitely something that I don't think I just like speak for myself when I say this, but this is like changing our lives, and it's having such a positive impact on us as human beings and as creators of art that I think it's amazing. And so thank you for that. And just to extend that invitation to everyone, because if you're listening to this, you can be part of it. You can come out here and share your art and share your feelings and your opinions, and just know that you're safe and you're okay and you matter and your perspective matters. And like you're part of this community just like all of us. And we're just looking to make things better. We're just looking to make this community safer for everyone.
You're doing just that. Once again, we've been chatting with Leona, Angelica, and Diana, the artists curating the upcoming Fuego political art show. The opening will be held on Tuesday, May 5th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Alternative Gallery and features an art exhibition of political paintings from local artists, poetry readings, and live music by a mariachi and other fun stuff. So get your butts out for that. Thank you all for being here. I had a great time chatting with all of you. Lots of great information.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Had a great time.
And we're going to have a great time at that show. And if you're enjoying the Art Bazaar podcast, please help us grow by liking and subscribing to the podcast. We want to reach a worldwide audience to help bring attention to all of the amazing creators and unique folks we bring on. They certainly deserve it. And that's all for now. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time on Art Bazaar.
Soy puro mexicano, nacido en este suelo, en esta hermosa tierra.
¡Viva
que es mi
México!
linda nación. Mi México querido, qué linda es mi bandera, si alguno la mancilla le parto el corazón. ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! ¡Oh suelo bendito de Dios! ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! Mi sangre por ti daré yo. Soy puro mexicano y nunca me he rajado. Si quieren informarse, la historia les dirá que México es valiente, que nunca se ha rajado. Viva la democracia, también la libertad. ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! ¡Oh suelo bendito de Dios! ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! Mi sangre por ti daré yo. Soy puro mexicano, por eso estoy dispuesto, si México lo quiere, que tenga que pelear. Mi vida se la ofrezco, al cabo él me la ha dado, y como buen soldado yo se la quiero dar. ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! ¡Oh suelo bendito de ¡Viva México! ¡Viva! ¡Viva América! ¡Viva! Mi sangre por ti daré yo.